How dare you? Don't listen to her!
Don't you listen to him!
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for those movies that saw major disappointment at the box office over the last 10 years. They might not all be bad films, but they were all financial losers.
Oh, yeah, that must be it.
I knew you'd believe me.
Number 30, Joker Folie Deux. Given the massive hit that was 2019's Joker, we can't fault the filmmakers or the studio for thinking the sequel also had the potential to be a big moneymaker.
Maybe I could talk to Joker about it. Would he like to talk to me?
But it wasn't. In fact, the film grossed just north of its estimated production budget of $200 million, not counting marketing. Projections have the studio losing anywhere from $125 to $200 million when all is said and done. Folie Deux translates to madness of two, as in a shared delusional disorder. And it would appear that those who thought a dark Joker jukebox musical was a good idea all shared in a delusion until reality came and shone a big bright light on it.
You don't know what it's like. Baby, you don't know what it's like.
Number 29, Hellboy. After Guillermo del Toro wasn't given full writer-director powers, and Ron Perlman refused to return to the role without him, what was supposed to be a sequel became a reboot.
Hellboy.
No, it's Josh. People confuse us all the time.
Come on, we gotta go.
It also became a big flop. To be fair, we can't be sure that had Del Toro and Perlman returned, the film would have been a hit. But we can be sure that without them, it only earned $55 million on a $50 million budget.
Welcome back to the land of the living. Hardly a scratch left. You heal fast.
It also earned a measly 17% on Rotten Tomatoes, and second place on Digital Spy's list of the biggest movie flops of 2019. Number 28, Mulan. Disney has seen huge box office numbers with live-action remakes of their classic animated movies, and no one thought Mulan would be any different.
Yes. It is best. I will bring honor to us all.
After its premiere in March of 2020, the film looked ready to take home plenty of box office dollars when it hit theaters later that month. But then COVID-19 hit, and everything changed. Instead of a huge theatrical push, the film went to Disney Plus Premier Access, and only into theaters in countries without Disney Plus. Money-wise, the film took home about $70 million from theaters, and an estimated $62 to $93 million from premium VOD.
We will live. I guarantee it. Because I will protect you. We'll protect each other. We'll fight for each other.
At best, that's $160 million or so, which ain't very good on a $200 million budget. Number 27, The Goldfinch. When Warner Brothers bought the rights to Donna Tartt's Pulitzer Prize-winning novel in 2014, they probably thought they had a hit on their hands, or at least an emotional and thought-provoking drama that would bring with it a few Oscar nominations.
Are you absolutely sure you want to do that?
Do what?
Your rook is in danger, but I would suggest you take a look at your queen.
Well, if that's what they thought, boy were they wrong. Not only did the movie receive a critical lashing, but audiences weren't interested either. The film took home a paltry $10 million at the box office. Estimated losses for the studio came in at around $50 million.
We're so accustomed to disguise ourselves to others that in the end, we become disguised to ourselves.
And the cherry on top, Tartt hated the movie so much she fired her agent and said she would never sell the rights to anything she wrote in the future. Number 26, Haunted Mansion. 2023's Haunted Mansion was the second time Disney had made a film based on their similarly named theme park attraction.
Sounds like you're trying to see the unseen.
That's exactly what I'm doing. And you said it in a much better way.
One thing it had in common with the 2003 version is that both were disliked by the critics, with 38% and 13% Rotten Tomatoes scores respectively. However, while the first movie was a mild success at the box office, the 2023 one bombed hard. We're looking at $117 million on a $150 million production budget. Taking all the expenses into account, Disney's losses on the movie have been estimated at almost $120 million. Now, that's scary. Number 25, Wonder Woman 1984. Following the unbelievable success of 2017's Wonder Woman, the prospects looked great for the sequel to be another massive hit. But it wasn't, or at least not in the same way, and that was because of COVID.
We won't be doing that today.
Wonder Woman 1984 was another cinematic victim of the pandemic. The film delayed its opening multiple times before finally dropping in December of 2020. However, with so many theaters shut down, the film didn't come close to the numbers of the first film, regardless of the lesser reviews. In the end, it took in $170 million on a budget of $200 million.
What did you do?
It did, however, also release on HBO Max at the same time and was the most streamed movie of 2020. Number 24, Robin Hood. The Robin Hood story has been made into a movie many times over the years, but it seems like Mr. Hood has been trending down over the last 3 decades.
We've got unfinished business.
No business. You tried to kill me.
I stowed away for 3 months on your ship. I could have killed you then if I wanted to. Not why I'm here.
You see, Kevin Costner's Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves made $390 million in 1991. Then in 2010, Russell Crowe's Robin Hood made $321 million. 8 years later, Taron Egerton took on the Robin Hood role and brought in just $86 million on a $100 million budget. Taking all expenses into account, 2018's Robin Hood is estimated to have lost the studio somewhere around $83 million.
Well, I hope now that you're back, I get to see a lot more of you.
As much as you'll allow, sir. I hope to earn your favor.
There's gotta be a take from the rich joke there somewhere, right? Number 23, A Wrinkle in Time. Following the success of 2014's Selma, director Ava DuVernay was a hot commodity in Hollywood. The talented filmmaker used that new clout to get her hands on $100+ million to make A Wrinkle in Time in 2018.
You need to get out, and get something. How will you make it if you never even try?
Based on a beloved sci-fi fantasy novel, and with big stars like Oprah Winfrey and Reese Witherspoon on board, a lot was expected from this one.
You should talk to them. Everyone knows that flowers are the best gossipers in the entire universe. You should show them a picture of your father and ask them if they've seen him.
How are we gonna understand each other?
At least try.
Unfortunately, what they got was a not-so-great 42% Rotten Tomatoes score, a box office haul of just $133 million, and estimated losses in the staggering $130 million range. Number 22, King Arthur, Legend of the Sword. Guy Ritchie's King Arthur, Legend of the Sword was supposed to be the first in a planned 6-film franchise. If you're wondering when the next 5 films are coming out, they aren't. After this first one flopped as hard as it did, the studios put the kibosh on the franchise's future. The film only made about $148 million at the box office, which isn't great for a franchise starter.
Most of the girls are with us, but the rest of the crew pretty much got gist of your popularity and made themselves scarce.
But it's even worse when they spend $175 million to make it, and even more to market it. In the end, the studios were looking down the barrel of $150 million in losses. Number 21, Shazam, Fury of the Gods. 2019's Shazam probably surprised a lot of people with its 90% Rotten Tomatoes score and $367 million box office. What wasn't a surprise, though, was that Warner Brothers started planning a sequel the instant the film became a hit.
Circle up, fam!
All right, here's the situation. We have one more job to do. and that's to keep this bridge from collapsing.
But unfortunately, said sequel didn't live up to the first film in either quality or box office. Shazam! Fury of the Gods holds a 49% score on Rotten Tomatoes, and its box office haul was a rather unimpressive $134.1 million. The production budget alone was between $110 and $125 million. The studio was definitely not Shazamming a profit out of this one.
There are more.
Perfect. We take them all.
No, it's not why we're here.
Number 20, Black Adam.
There's no one on this planet that can stop me.
I can call in a favor and send people who aren't from this planet.
Send them all.
Just because you have one of the biggest stars in the world playing a DC superhero doesn't guarantee a billion-dollar hit. Black Adam fell just below grossing $400 million, which would have been solid for a film that cost $100 million. However, Black Adam was originally budgeted at $190 million, which skyrocketed to $260 million after reshoots. Taking its marketing into consideration, numerous outlets deemed the film a flop. Star Dwayne Johnson argued otherwise, although the figures he pointed to were called into question. Even if there is a road to profitability, Black Adam was far from the game changer that was supposed to reinvigorate the DCEU. Despite Johnson's initial claims that Black Adam will absolutely fight Superman, James Gunn seems to have other plans.
It's been a while since anyone's made the world this nervous. Black Adam. We should talk.
Number 19, The 355.
Please put the guns down.
I would listen to her.
And by all means, do.
8, 7.
We all want the same thing here.
No, we don't.
6,
Please.
5,
4,
3,
2, 1!
We're not going to act like COVID hasn't factored into more than a few recent flops. The Omicron surge didn't do this espionage ensemble piece any favors. Given the lackluster reviews, though, we're not convinced that The 355 would have been a box office success even in a pre-pandemic world. As much as we like Jessica Chastain, Penelope Cruz, and the rest of the cast, there's only so much they can do with a forgettable script and a director who, quite frankly, is better off as a producer.
Thanks for everything you taught me, Nick. A girl really does need a guy to explain it all to her. But I'll take it from here.
Nevertheless, Universal was confident enough in the picture to pay $20 million out of Cannes. The 355 made about $7.8 million more than its distribution rights, with the budget falling between $40 and $75 million. Number 18, Amsterdam.
Who knows, maybe I'll find a new life and a new love.
I hope so. Because when it comes to love, there's nothing quite so good as clarity.
I agree.
Amsterdam proved two things. Star power isn't what it used to be, and neither is director David O. Russell. After a lengthy hiatus, Russell returned with this star-studded revisionist history, mystery, comedy, period picture that's also a political thriller. Yeah, you can tell from this description that Amsterdam doesn't know what it wants to be. Since the film can't pick a tone, the actors struggle to unearth any chemistry.
Okay, things were a little more difficult. I had to stab a guy, I had to hit a lady with a brick one time.
What? Wow.
Yeah, it's a long story, but with you two, it'll be a cakewalk.
Too ambiguous for its own good, Amsterdam could have used a critical boost, but reviews, unsurprisingly, were not so forgiving. Costing $80 million to produce and an estimated $70 million to promote, the film got off to a disastrous $6.5 million opening weekend, with its final worldwide total amounting to $31.2 million. Number 17, The Last Duel. With a price tag of $100 million, The Last Duel got better reviews than some other award season hopefuls. Even if you took COVID out of the equation, though, it would have been a tough sell.
I begged you to find another way, and now I might be burned alive.
I am risking my life for you.
You are risking my life.
In addition to the uncomfortable subject matter, the film clocks in at 2.5 hours, limiting the number of potential showings and alienating those turned off by long run times. With older demographics still hesitant about returning to theaters, Ridley Scott's latest historical epic opened with $10.9 million, ultimately grossing about 3 times that amount.
Lady, upon your evidence, I hazard my life in combat with Jacques Legris. You know my cause is just and true.
Scott pinned the blame on millennials who, quote, do not ever want to be taught anything unless you are told it on the cell phone. We'd love to see Scott's TikTok remake that appears to the younger crowd. Number 16, West Side Story. Unlike The Last Duel, West Side Story at least managed to win over Academy voters.
Tonight, the world is wild and bright, going mad, shooting sparks into space.
In terms of box office, however, the pandemic's effects were once again felt. By December 2021, audiences were starting to return to theaters, although most of them were flocking to see Spider-Man: No Way Home. West Side Story could have provided an alternative for the older crowd, although that demographic was still steering clear of theaters with Omicron on the rise.
How do you fire it? There's police. How many bullets are left? Enough for you!
It didn't help that another adaptation of the classic musical already exists, leading many to question if a remake was necessary. Steven Spielberg hasn't lost his touch as a director, but with a gross of $76 million against $100 million, his reign as box office king may be over. Number 15, Dark Phoenix. While the previous X-Men movies had been critically hit and miss, all of them were financially successful. So when Fox gave Dark Phoenix the go-ahead, it seemed like another guaranteed blockbuster.
Please, stop. Not until I know you're gonna be okay.
Unfortunately, the film was a storm of unforeseen obstacles. What was originally supposed to be a 2-part movie suddenly had to be squeezed into one.
If you break something, anything, I can fix it.
Not anything.
Reshoots were ordered due to negative test screenings, and tweaks were allegedly also made to avoid comparison to an MCU movie. Meanwhile, Disney was in the midst of acquiring Fox, which was partially blamed for the film's poor marketing. Horrible reviews were the final nail in the coffin for Dark Phoenix, which made roughly $250 million on a $200 million budget. Reportedly, it lost $100 million in total, until New Mutants came along and made just $49 million at the box office. It was the lowest grossing X-Men movie.
Indubitably, it's indisputable that you are the absolute worst mutants I've ever seen.
Number 14, Fantastic Four. A couple years before Disney came along with $71 billion to burn, Fox made a last-ditch effort to prove that they could make a watchable Fantastic Four movie.
I need you to manually override the re-entry, okay?
Okay, I got it.
Manually override the re-entry!
I'm trying!
Did audiences embrace Fox's gritty take on the colorful superhero team? Well, by the end of its opening weekend, the film came in second at the domestic box office to Mission Impossible: Rogue Nation, which had already been out for over a week. In North America, Fantastic Four grossed $56.1 million, which is about how much its 2005 predecessor made in its opening weekend alone.
Gotta say, it's fantastic.
With an overall intake of $167.9 million, the film lost nearly $100 million on a budget of no less than $120 million. We guess their loss was the MCU's gain.
Enough!
When your world is destroyed, and I'm all that's left, then it will be enough.
Number 13, Monster Trucks. A film about monster trucks that are literally monsters living inside trucks doesn't exactly scream bona fide hit. Nevertheless, we guess the idea offers a few possibilities for tie-in merchandise.
There's something going on here.
Really?
Yeah, something crazy, and I don't even know how to begin to explain.
Maybe this could have actually turned a respectable profit with a modest budget of $25 million. The studio unwisely decided to throw $125 million at monster trucks, however.
It's the truck! That thing is in the truck!
We can only assume one of the studio heads thought this was going to be the next Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Where Ninja Turtles built a fan base with comics, toys, and a cartoon though, monster trucks went blindly charging into the fast lane without any driving experience. Grossing $64.5 million worldwide, what was intended to jumpstart a franchise instead lost an estimated $123.1 million.
We're a family.
He was looking for his parents.
Number 12, Justice League.
You're all too weak to see the truth.
Well, I believe in truth. But I'm also a big fan of justice.
After Marvel broke records with the Avengers, DC seemed destined to do the same. Where the MCU took its time establishing its heroes though, the DCEU accelerated things to catch up. Along the way, they churned out 5 films that ranged from awesome to Suicide Squad.
Honka honka!
As if that wasn't enough to make moviegoers skeptical, Zack Snyder left during post-production due to a family tragedy, with Joss Whedon stepping in. When Justice League hit theaters, it was about as tonally inconsistent and rushed as people expected.
So, how do I help?
We buy him some time. He can stop that box from destroying all life on Earth. We hope.
Well, I knew you didn't bring me back because you like me.
I don't. Not.
Its $658 million gross would have been passable for a middle-tier superhero movie, but for a $300 million tentpole, it didn't reach the break-even point. At least Snyder eventually got to finish his version, although measuring its profitability is tricky.
Not impressed.
Number 11, the BFG. On paper, the BFG appeared to be too big to fail.
Where am I?
Giant country.
It was being distributed by Disney, it was based on a cherished book by literary legend Roald Dahl, and it marked director Steven Spielberg's return to family-friendly entertainment. Unlike some of the other films on this list, the BFG also had mostly positive reviews on its side. For whatever reason though, more people wanted to see The Purge election year and The Legend of Tarzan over the 4th of July weekend.
Won't be like that. We'll stop the giants. We'll make them go away forever.
Making just over $55 million in North America and $183.3 million in total, the BFG had much smaller returns than expected. Like Willy Wonka, BFG could become a cult classic someday, but it likely won't recoup its $140 million budget anytime soon.
There's only one word for that, Magister. Scrum-diddly-umptious.
Number 10, Chaos Walking.
So you're not from Earth? Took 64 years to get from Earth to here. I mean, you don't look 64 years old. Yellow hair, pretty. Really pretty. Please ignore that.
People like Spider-Man, people like Star Wars. We think they still like dystopian YA adaptations. Let's throw them all together and let the money flow in. If only the formula for success was that simple. Even before the pandemic was delaying most big-budget movies, Chaos Walking was already in release window limbo as poor test screenings and reshoots spelled doom. When Chaos Walking was finally released in February 2021, 4 years after principal photography started, it felt like the film had been sent adrift on an ice floe.
My whole life you lied to me.
We thought we could protect you.
That's not protecting me, that's lying to
I'm
me.
sorry. Let me protect you now.
Nobody expected it to survive the cold critical reception. With an intake of $27.1 million against at least $100 million, the studio could only take solace in one thing: the almighty write-down. Number 9, Terminator Dark Fate.
Sarah Connor.
I'll kill you! I'll kill you!
Considering that Terminator 2 was the highest grossing movie of 1991, we can understand why Hollywood would want to recapture that magic. After Rise of the Machines, Salvation, and Genesis though, studios should have learned by 2019 that it's not gonna happen, ever. Regardless, they made another attempt with Dark Fate, which marked the return of Linda Hamilton and James Cameron, albeit not as a director. Although better received than some other sequels, it rehashed most of the same tired plot points with several questionable new ideas thrown in.
Once, I saved 3 billion lives. But I couldn't save my son. A machine took him from me.
The budget of nearly $200 million bit off more than it could chew, reportedly losing the studio $122.6 million. If you think this is truly the end, Cameron says that a reboot is, quote, in discussion. Number 8, Lightyear.
Initiate hyperlaunch.
Certainly.
All right, Space Rangers, here we go.
To infinity?
And beyond.
How could a Toy Story movie possibly flop? Well, by removing most of the toys, substituting the playful tone with gritty realism, and not even bringing Tim Allen back to voice Buzz Lightyear. To its credit, Lightyear featured some stunning animation and intriguing ideas that might have worked fine in another sci-fi picture, just not necessarily one about Buzz Lightyear. What was supposed to be Pixar's grand return to theaters only grossed $226.4 million. That would have been great for the original Toy Story, which cost $30 million in 1995. But this 2022 spin-off came with a $200 million price plus marketing and distribution costs.
What's wrong?
Did you not hear that? She believed I could fix the mistake I made. And that belief cost her everything.
Following its failure, Pixar CCO Pete Docter deduced that the film, quote, asked too much of the audience. Number 7, Tomorrowland. You can never guarantee a hit movie, but Tomorrowland seemed to have all the pieces needed to be one.
Do you want to tell this story?
No, you're doing fine.
Because if you think you could tell the story better, I would absolutely love to hear you try.
Wow, really?
Really?
You had director Brad Bird, who'd seen loads of box office dollars with previous films that included The Incredibles to Mission Impossible, Ghost Protocol. Then you had co-writer Damon Lindelof, best known as one of the creators of Lost. And finally, there was George Clooney in the starring role. And yet, with all those pieces, the film only brought in $209 million. Set against the film's production and marketing budget, that meant a $120 to $150 million loss for Disney.
Why don't we just get you to your amazing dad? Pretend this never happened.
But hey, the film did pick up 3 Teen Choice Award nominations. So, silver lining, right? Number 6, Cats.
You've learned enough to take the view that cats are very much like you.
The stage version of Cats made almost $4 billion worldwide, breathing new life into the Broadway musical. The cinematic version of Cats was such a catastrophic flop that it probably would have killed the movie musical if Frozen 2 hadn't come out a month earlier. That said, Cats was completely overshadowed by the Frozen sequel, not to mention Rise of Skywalker. Cats is already developing a so bad it's good reputation, not unlike The Room.
You are tearing me apart, Lisa!
Where The Room cost just $6 million to make, however, Cats had a $95 million budget. So it's gonna take a lot of late night screenings and home media sales for this thing to ever show a profit. Universal was estimated to have lost somewhere between $70 and $114 million from the film. Me ouch. Number 5, Moonfall.
To find out if you're ready.
Ready for what?
We need a human to lure the swarm away from the core so the moon will return to its orbit. We need you, Brian, to join the fight.
After Sun to Leslie, Roland Emmerich's Moonfall, what do they all have in common? They're all technically independent movies. Before you say anything, yes, Moonfall cost a lot more than the aforementioned indies, with its budget ranging from $138 million to $146 million. However, rather than go the traditional funding route for a disaster picture of this magnitude, Emmerich independently financed Moonfall with help from backers like Lionsgate and Wye Brothers.
You know, if Earth gets a second chance, I think we deserve one too.
I'd like that.
Did Emmerich's gamble pay off? Well, Moonfall didn't make back half of its budget, bringing in $67.3 million. It didn't even open number 1, losing to Jackass Forever, which cost just $10 million. If Emmerich wants to save face, he should produce a documentary about how this movie got made, which sounds far more interesting. Number 4, Strange World.
What did it feel like?
And how does it feel?
Feels perfect.
How badly did Strange World bomb? It made even less than Treasure Planet, which came out 20 years earlier. To be fair, the game has significantly changed since then, thanks to the rise of streaming, not to mention COVID. Disney also could have done much more to market Strange World, not receiving the same fanfare as some of their other films. If Puss in Boots: The Last Wish proved anything a month later, though, it's that positive word of mouth can still produce a sleeper hit, even after an underwhelming opening weekend against stiff competition.
You're still here? Okay, one more number. I call this one, The Legend Will Never Die.
The word of mouth simply wasn't there for Strange World. While the film has performed better on Disney+, the financial loss of $147 million will forever be tied to its legacy.
You could be right there with me when I did it. This was supposed to be our legacy. Father and son.
You want to talk about legacy? I'm about to destroy mine.
Number 3, Jupiter Ascending. Walking out of Jupiter Ascending, audiences asked the same question. Somebody paid $176 million to $210 million for this?
You begged me to do it!
I am not your damn mother.
The high investment makes more sense given the involvement of the Wachowskis, the visionaries behind The Matrix. Of course, that revelation comes with another question. The people who brought us The Matrix made this? While the space opera performed better outside of the US and Canada, where it made just $47.4 million, the worldwide total of $183.9 million was a far cry from the franchise starter that the filmmakers were hoping for. We'd like to give the film credit for originality, but the characters, plot, and visuals all feel recycled from superior sci-fi stories.
And I wouldn't blame them either. Besides, I'm still trying to understand exactly what it means myself.
Or maybe it just means that Your Majesty's planet has a different future than the one that was planned for.
And yet, few modern films are more uniquely bad. Number 2, Pan. Speaking of redundant ideas, Pan feels like a Warner Brothers executive said, "We need something to fill the Harry Potter void, and Disney hasn't done a live-action Peter Pan remake yet. Let's strike while the iron is lukewarm at best."
Now kneel.
I said kneel!
I am the son of a warrior and a prince. I will never bow to you.
Pan abides by the mentality that if something is familiar, audiences will show up in droves. While Hollywood sometimes gets lucky with this philosophy, it wasn't the case for Pan. The studio sank $150 million into the production budget alone, with at least another $100 million going into its marketing. With the break-even point being in the $500 million range, Pan finished with an abysmal $128 million. Peter Pan may be timeless, but this movie epitomized several tropes that became dated years earlier.
You've seen what Blackbeard has done to Neverland already. He'll reduce the rest of it to nothing but mine pits if we don't stop him.
Has anybody ever told you you have really beautiful eyes?
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1, Mortal Engines. With a production budget somewhere between $100 and $150 million, Mortal Engines was a risky venture for Universal.
Give me everything you have!
When Peter Jackson is attached as a screenwriter and producer, though, a risk can start to seem like a sure thing.
I've heard that before.
I just need a little more time.
Always so sure of yourself.
Plus, the film was based on a beloved YA novel by Philip Reeve, inviting plenty of franchise potential. The studio knew it was in big trouble when Mortal Engines only brought in $7.5 million over its opening weekend.
Your heart is broken. I will take away the pain.
Things went downhill from there as the film plummeted 77% during its second weekend. Grossing just $83.7 million worldwide, Mortal Engines crashed and burned thanks to unenthusiastic reviews and a crowded holiday season. High post-production costs further contributed to the studio's monumental loss of $174.8 million.
You failed.
Did you love any of these flops? Which ones deserved better? Let us know in the comments.
It's not like I'm not trying, but I really, really need your help.